Five Republican presidential candidates faced off for a third debate Wednesday night. One of the topics was military intervention abroad, including in Ukraine and Israel, and what the United States should do about Iran.
If you want to stop the 40-plus attacks on military personnel in the Middle East, you have to strike in Iran.
Make sure that we continue to isolate Iran. Work with the reasonable nations in the Middle East, the other Arab nations who want to partner with you.
You harm a hair on the head of an American service member, and you are going to have hell to pay.
It wasn't the only issue drawing varying statements. Some candidates took a more cautious approach on the issue of abortion than in the past debates. The apparent shift came one day after the Republican-led state of Ohio voted to enshrine abortion rights in its state constitution. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa joins me now from Washington. Bob, I want to ask you about the question of abortion, but before we get to that, debates only matter if they can be turned into money or increased support. After last night, did any candidate have a chance to do that?
John, some of the most revealing moments of a debate don't come during the televised broadcast, but during those later conversations into the evening at the spin room, at the hotel lobby, as people really digest what had happened. And what I detected last night was a real sense of desperation behind the scenes, public confidence, but private angst about money running out, donors losing faith, and about this field remaining pretty big. You had 5 people on stage. Others continue to run who were not on stage. And there's a sense among traditional Republicans, the non-Trump wing, that if this field doesn't get smaller anytime soon, they're all going to be splitting the same vote, and Trump will be the nominee.
So let me hold on to that point you just made. Given that sense of desperation, Bob, is there a kind of up-tempo or increased energy in trying to get some of these candidates who've done their best but aren't going to make it to get out of the race because the clock is ticking and the front runner is way ahead?
There is, but no one wants to leave. At this point, there's going to be much more difficult. It's going to be much more difficult to make the next debate in early December in Alabama as the RNC increases the threshold. At the same time, if you're former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, you're thinking to yourself, based on my conversations with his allies, I can make a play in New Hampshire, might as well stay into New Hampshire and see if I can surprise people there. If you're Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, you still have a well-funded super PAC. You just got the endorsement of the Iowa governor. You're not going to get out of the race. Nikki Haley's going to stay in, ticking up in the polls, increasingly seen as a viable option by many non-Trump donors in the GOP. And for others out there like Asa Hutchinson and Doug Burgum, who didn't make the stage, sure, they're being nudged out by people like Chris Sununu, the New Hampshire governor, who told me the other day he doesn't see a path for either of them. But so many of these politicians, John, you've written about for years and covered, they look in the mirror every morning and they see a president. And as you've well said, it's the hardest job in the world, but it's a job they all want.
That's right. Yeah, well said. Bob, let me ask you this about abortion. What did we learn, if anything, about the contours of abortion positions in the Republican Party from the exchanges last night, or what you've heard with the backdrop of the results on Election Day, where abortion was a winning issue for Democrats?
We began the year at CBS News covering the push to the right on abortion rights. You saw Florida Governor DeSantis talk about a 6-week ban and then get that into law in his state. You saw so many Republicans asked early on when they announced their campaigns in the spring and summer, well, where are you on restricting abortion rights? Do you want a 15-week ban, a 6-week ban? And that became part of the early debate. Now the conversation's changed. It's not about where do you stand on the weeks in terms of where you want to restrict abortion rights, but it's about maybe just not talking about it at all. Because they're watching what happens in a state like Ohio, which is generally seen now as Republican-leaning. And if this is what's happening in Ohio, then that means non-voters who are left-leaning, who support abortion rights, they're coming out in a way they didn't 4 or 5 years ago. They're coming out because of what happened with Roe v. Wade being overturned. And Republicans think they have a better message in all of these campaigns I've spoken with on economics against President Biden versus taking him on abortion rights. So it's not going to be about what they say in the coming months so much as what they don't say in terms of wading into the cultural wars on education and on abortion rights.
And if their base allows them to be muted on that topic. Fascinating point. Robert Costa in Washington. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, John.